Hello dear students, in this session let us continue the topic of bounded variation and let's move to absolute continuity topic. Okay, so we have a theorem. A theorem states that a function f is of bounded variation on closed interval a comma b if and only if it can be expressed as the difference of two monotonic increasing functions on closed interval a comma b. So we have to show that if f is a bounded variation on closed interval a comma b, then you can express a function f as difference of two monotonic increasing functions. Similarly, if you consider f can be expressed as difference of two monotonic increasing function, then that f should be a bounded variation. These 2 points you have to prove now. Firstly, the given thing is we will consider f is of bounded variation. This is what we are assuming now. We have to prove you can express this f as difference of two monotonic functions. I will consider one is g and another is h. Okay, so now your g is equal to pa to x. What does it mean if I say pa to x? This is a positive variation of f. Positive variation of f. So similarly, your f should have negative variation also, correct? The negative variation is h is equal to n a to x. This is negative variation of your function f. So now one more thing we are assuming here is this g and h both are non-negative monotonic increasing function. In the interval a to b, that is closed interval a to b. So now in the previous session we have seen a theorem that if f is a bounded variation over closed interval a comma b, then you can express f of b minus f of a is equal to p a to b minus n a to b. In the particular theorem we have in the place of b we have x, correct? So using the previous theorem I can express f of x minus f of a is equal to p a to x minus n a to x. Is that fine? So now f of x minus f of a will be equal to, what is my p a of a to x? It is g of x. And what is n a x? This is minus h of x. Group the terms. You can write f of x is equal to g of x minus h of x plus f of a. You can write this as g of x minus of h of x minus f of a. Here this f of a is some constant function. Okay, we know that h of x is non-negative monotonic increasing function and g of x is also monotonic increasing function. So this is increasing function minus some constant function gives you a monotonic increasing function itself. And from the assumption g of x is already a monotonic increasing function. So what you can conclude now? You can express f of x, you can express f of x as difference of two monotonic increasing function if your f is of bounded variation on closed interval a comma b. So now we have proved the direct part. So what I have done, I have considered f is of bounded variation on closed interval a comma b. So obviously this bounded variation consists of positive variation as well as negative variation. Positive variation is nothing but a function g of x, and negative variation is nothing but your function h of x. And also g of x and h of x are non-negative monotonic increasing function. So from the previous theorem we can write, if f is of bounded variation, then f of x is equal to f of x minus f of a is equal to p a to x minus n a to x. From assumption we know p a to x is nothing but g of x and n a to x is nothing but h of x. So you can write f of x is equal to g of x minus h of x plus f of a. If I take minus outside, it will be h of x minus f of a. Your f of a is some constant function. It will have some constant values. So this is anyhow increasing function. So you will get difference of two increasing function is equal to f of x. That means f of x can be expressed as two monotonic increasing functions. So conversely, you have to assume that you can express f of x is equal to difference of two monotonic function. From that you have to prove your f is of bounded variation now, correct? So assume or suppose f is equal to g minus h. G is one monotonic function and h is another monotonic function. I am expressing f as difference of two monotonic functions on closed interval a comma b. So from the definition of bounded variation, there exists partition in this interval. So I will write that as a is equal to x0 less than x1 less than x2 so on up to less than xk, which is equal to b. When you can say f is of bounded variation, if t is less than infinity, that is t from a to b is less than infinity. If this is the case, then you can say f is of bounded variation, correct? So now I will consider from total bounded variation summation I is equal to 1 to k mod f of xi minus f of xi minus 1. Okay, so this is nothing but you can express f of xi as g of xi minus h of xi. So you can write this as summation I is equal to 1 to n mod of g of xi minus h of xi minus g of xi minus 1 minus into minus, it will become plus h of xi minus 1. Split the modulus, you will get inequality. So this will be less than or equal to summation I is equal to 1 to k mod g of xi minus g of xi minus 1 plus mod h of xi minus 1 minus h of xi. So if you expand your summation, many terms will get cancelled and you will end up with g of xk minus g of x0 plus h of xk minus h of x0. So xk means it is your b and x0 is your a. Substitute those values. So you will get g of b minus g of a plus h of b minus h of a. Here we have summation I is equal to 1 to k mod f of xi minus f of xi minus 1. So if you take supremum on your left hand side, you will get t a to b less than or equal to g of b minus g of a plus h of b minus h of a. So obviously this term will be less than infinity. So I will conclude t a to b is less than infinity. That means this implies your f is bounded variation on closed interval a comma b. So this theorem is also called as Jordan decomposition theorem. In the statement, check your notes and make a correction. A function f is of bounded variation on closed interval a comma b if and only if it can be expressed as. I forgot to write that line, so add it in your statement. It can be expressed as the difference of two monotonic increasing functions on closed interval a comma b. The next theorem is, let f be a function of bounded variation on closed interval a comma b. If this f is a continuous at a point in a comma b, then its variation function vf is also continuous. So they have given a function which is a bounded variation. Also it is continuous at some point in your interval. Okay, we have to prove that if you take variation function on that function f, it is also continuous. From definition of continuity, I can write, let f be a continuous function. Continuous at, they have given at some point, right? I will consider that point as some x star in closed interval a comma b. Then for a given epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that mod of f of x minus f of x star will be less than epsilon by 2 whenever or for mod x minus x star is less than delta. This is your continuity definition, correct? Now, by definition of total variation, here the total variation we will consider from t x star b of f, where your x star belongs to a comma b. Okay, so now the partition will be x star is equal to x naught less than x1 less than x2 less than so on up to xn is equal to b of the interval x star comma b. So we are defining the partition for some point x star. Okay, so now from total variation definition such that summation I is equal to 1 to n modulus of f of xi minus f of xi minus 1, this whole term will be greater than t x star to b of f minus epsilon by 2. Okay, from definition of function of bounded variation, these two terms should be actually equal. Since I'm subtracting from epsilon by 2, this quantity will be greater than t x star to b of f minus epsilon by 2. So now the first interval we are considering is x0 to x1. This will be the length of this interval will be less than delta, so that this inequality holds. Okay, now t x star to b of f minus epsilon by 2 is less than mod f of x1 minus f of x0 plus summation I is equal to 2 to n mod f of xi minus f of xi minus 1. I can write this quantity in this form, correct? So now if I consider the first interval as x0 comma x1, from the definition of continuity, this will be less than epsilon by 2. This term will be less than epsilon by 2. So I can write that as t x star to b of f minus epsilon by 2 is less than epsilon by 2 plus, using total variation, this is t x1 to b of f. Now you can write this as t x star to b of f is less than epsilon, or you can write one more line, t x star to b of f minus t x1 to b of f is less than epsilon. From this you can write Tx star to x1 of f is less than epsilon. This is your total variation. So if you consider the positive and negative variations, it will be Vf of x1 minus Vf of x star will be less than epsilon for 0 less than x1 minus x star less than delta. For this value, your variation function of x1 minus variation function of x star will be less than epsilon. So if you consider the right hand limit and left hand limit, this will implies limit x tends to x star plus 0 Vf of x. This will be equal to Vf of x star, correct? Similarly, limit x tends to x star minus 0 Vf of x is equal to Vf of x star itself. If right hand limit and left hand limits are equal, that means your function is continuous. Therefore, Vf of x is continuous. So that's all. That means if your f is a continuous function, then obviously its variation function Vf is also continuous. Okay, the next topic is your differentiability of an integral. So how you can define differentiability of an integral? If I consider a function f be an integral function on closed interval a comma b, then we define indefinite integral to be the function of this f on closed interval a comma b by defining it as f of x is equal to integral over a to x f of t dt plus c for all your x belongs to closed interval a comma b, and the c is a constant. Okay, this is nothing but your indefinite integral. You can define indefinite integral using integral function. Integral function means integral a to b f of f should be less than infinity, correct? Using that you can define your indefinite integral. Now let's implement this in some of the theorems.